Hello, I'm Josh, and this is the Bacon Lodge Adventures. Today, we're going to be making a form for all of your epoxy stuff. This type of form is if you want to basically make a square. I guess you could make in different shapes as well, but it's not a free form. It's more of like structured. So I'm going to be making a form in 3 sections because I want to make 3 panels for upcoming project. So to do that, I did some work off tape because it's kind of boring. I took seam tape for weather shield for like your house, like your vapor barrier. You can get it at any hardware store. This is just a brand that I happen to have because I bought a ton of it when we were building our lodge up north. So I have like 7 rolls of this left over, so I use a lot of it. What's nice about this is it sticks really well to just about anything. So if you didn't use plywood, if you use some other type of bottom form like PVC sheet or something like that, it would stick to that really well. You do want to make sure your bottom sheet is at least a 1/2 inch thick from what I've found. I tried a PVC sheet one. I spent like a lot of money and got it because I thought I'd be able to reuse it for a lot of different times. PVC is porous. I know this, but I didn't remember it. So when I used it, I couldn't separate panel from the form. Just wanted to say out there, don't use PVC. So I just used this seam tape, and I spent the amount of time that I needed, a crazy amount, and I taped up the entire thing. I know it's probably going to look a little horrible on the camera because of the distraction of the logo that they put all over this tape, but it's what we got to deal with for today. Sure, you overlap every single layer of tape, at least like about an 1/8 to 1/4 inch at the minimum. The reason why you want to make sure you overlap it is so that it doesn't bleed underneath there. Because if you just line up the edges, epoxy is crazy. It'll find its way into any single groove. Got that all taped up. The sideboards, I already mounted a couple of them here. They're taped on the face, not the bottom. Some are on the top, but that's just where it wrapped over. The ones that are going to be the center dividers are taped on both sides. You can see that I have it taped here. Just using regular screws to screw it up. On the perimeter, I measured 3/8 of an inch off, and I made a line and I pre-drilled holes so that it would go into the center of the 3/4 inch board, hoping to make sure that I didn't miss and come into the face. This form can be reused. I've used this bottom panel for 2 or 3 different pours and most of the side pieces. Only thing is that when you use the side pieces, the long ones, as long as you run them past the full 8 feet, you'll be able to use those forever. I custom cut the side ones every time because I'm not always going to be pouring the same height of a project. This one's going to be 31.5 inches. So I cut these boards to 31.5 inches. If you needed something 16 inches, you would cut them down to 16 inches and then you run the barrier. I got the outside barrier there and they're installed, and then this board is just screwed into that side. You can see I can still move it. The next step is to put in the central dividers. Okay, so this is the outside barrier here, and this is the next middle divider I'm going to use. It's a middle one, so I have it taped on both sides. You want to make sure if you're going to be pouring epoxy on both sides of it, it's taped on both sides. So my first one needs to be 31 inches long. So I'm going to make sure you measure from the inside of the board, and I'm going to come down here and make a mark at 31 inches. When you're setting up this form, I like to add at least a 1/2 inch to the length because you're going to trim these because the epoxy doesn't make it perfect to the edge. Because later we're gonna seal the inside of these, and it's going to take off a little bit of the corner. And if you want it to be precise, you want to make sure that you give about a 1/2 inch gap. To mount it on here, it's pretty simple. We're just going to take the board here. I'm going to use a speed square because I want to keep it up and down at a right angle the best I can. Let me do it this side so you can actually see that. I have my mark here, and you're going to go past the mark, of course. Then just start a screw. Line up your line and screw her in. And have it slip so you don't look professional in any way. And then I put 2 in each one. And I'm going to run through and put the rest of the barriers up. So I got it all done here. So I screwed up on the edges here, 2 in each one. Same thing on the far side. Then this far board over here, because there was a dip in the plywood, I actually screwed in from underneath up into it so that otherwise there was a gap right there of about a 1/4 inch. And that lets a lot of epoxy out. You don't think so, but 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch when you're looking at this big of an area is a lot of epoxy, and the stuff's pretty expensive. The next step is we're going to cover all of the seams with caulk. We need to seal up the cracks. We have the vertical and horizontal cracks. So we need to make sure we do that. I use caulk. I'll put a link in the description, and I'll put it up on the screen here. You can use any caulk you really want. You just put a bead in there. Make sure you don't want any chance of there being any gaps. It'll also get pushed in there when you clean it off. Don't worry about being too messy with it right now, because we're going to clean it up in a second here. You can see it's there. It's this big glob, and it would take up a lot of space that you have to sand off. So to clean that up, I just have a rag here that it's wet. So you make sure you get your finger nice and wet. You can go to a sink too or whatever, but I just do it off the rag itself. And then you take your finger that's wet and you just slide it down and try to make it as smooth as possible. You don't have to make it perfectly smooth like on the bottom and the side, because you're going to be sanding or cutting that off anyhow. It's better to leave a little more in this instance. Like if you're caulking your house, your bathroom or something, you want to try to get as much off there as possible, and you wouldn't leave these little raised entrances or little bumps there. It's okay to leave those in this, because they're already going to have on the tape is already going to be leaving marks anyhow, so you're going to have to resurface both sides anyhow. I would rather leave a little bit extra, especially in the corners, because epoxy, it'll find any tiny little crack. So we're just going to go through, clean it up. I wanted to say, because I was thinking when I was framing it out, I talked to you about how I reuse this form. You can reuse the form, and I've used it several times. You just have to make sure that wherever the tape tears, you go back and you put more tape over top of it. Like the screw holes that I had to put in there to anchor that far board, I'm just going to go, when I'm all done with it, I'll cover them back up with tape. So that's how we caulk it. I'm going to get that all done. I'll show it to you, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, I'm going to show you it's all done here. I did run out of the white caulk, so I ended up having to use black. The black you can really see where it does. Once again, make sure that you put it on there pretty thick so there's no chance of it leaking through. So the first tube of caulk I had was acrylic, which is the white stuff. The second tube I had was silicone, which is the black stuff. The silicone is way more noxious with the smell. Just walking around that side of it, wow. So I've used acrylic before, so I know it'll work well. So if you don't have a bunch of silicone hanging around, I would probably stick with the acrylic, just so you don't have to smell the horrible fumes. So it's all finished out now. This is basically where we have to wait now. You have to let it cure at least overnight. Read your directions on whatever caulk you got and wait the time. It's important to do that. I've tried to jump it a few times, and all it does is the epoxy will run through it, and then you waste a ton of epoxy, which is really expensive. You make a giant mess all over your floor, which is a pain to clean up. I did it in my garage, and it spilled all over the floor, and it's still there because I couldn't get it off. So this is the overall form. I do appreciate you watching this video. This is going to be part of a short series that I'm doing because we're going on vacation in a week. And all these smaller videos are part of a bigger project that I'm going to be finishing when we get back. We leave tomorrow, actually. We'll be gone for a week, then we get back. So hopefully you enjoy this one. There'll be one more part of this series, which will be how I decide to cut the wood that's going to go in there with the epoxy and the actual pouring of the epoxy. That'll be released the next time I release a video. Hopefully you enjoy it and you watch that one as well. Thank you again for watching. I do appreciate it. We broke the 100 subscriber mark, which was awesome because I did those charcuterie board. I did a charcuterie board video, and I went from like 65 to over 100, which to me is amazing. I know it's minimal to a lot of other YouTube people, but on this journey of doing YouTube, I'm very happy with the gains on it. I'm not doing this ever to make money, I don't think. I just want it to possibly teach somebody out there how to do things. Also, for me, it actually makes me get up and do things, and it makes me do things better. As in, if I'm not filming it for you to watch, I may cut corners. I may not wait for this caulk to completely cure, and then I'll make a mistake, which in the end costs me more time and money because I have to redo whatever I was doing, and there's no need for that. So the YouTube videos, hopefully you're learning a lot from it. It's actually gaining me. It's also, I'm doing a lot more than I normally would have done. Like the project I'm building now, I've been kind of putting off for 2 years. It needs to be done, and I would like to get it done. So thanks to you, I'm actually getting it finished. Once again, thank you for watching. I do very, very much appreciate it. Please subscribe if you liked what I did. May God bless you, and may you have a great day.